In our last episode, we arrived at Bahama Bay Marina in Freeport. Stumbled upon the abandoned Xanadu Hotel and celebrated Valentine's Day at the Lucayan Beach Resort. Ilona and I rode our bikes to Sands Brewing Company, and what a great experience it was. The main ingredients, malts, hops, and yeast, come from Germany. It's the only true Bahamian-owned and operated brewery in the Bahamas. We're at Sands Brewery, and these are the cans, empty cans, no tops on them, and they're working their way through the assembly line. All these machines are from Germany. After the hurricane, the recent hurricane, they were down for a year and a half. Looks like they're doing the sands light. They alternate depending on what's ready. They get flipped upside down, they get rinsed out. Because if you look over there, you can see that the cans are actually upside down now. Working their way back. Along the way, they'll get flipped right side up. They'll get filled up. And it looks like they even go into a case as they're done. On a different day, it was amazing to see how they switched all the equipment over to bottles. Sands offers a nice variety of stouts, ales, and beers. Ilona was so happy to see a familiar face at Jimmy Sands liquor store. Our next stop, the Bahamas Distilling Company, where we learned all about the rum distilling process.
They used to make brandy. Then they moved all the way over to Cape Town, South Africa, where they were used to make tequila. They sat there for many years unused. So when my brother and I decided to start the distillery, we got wind of these stills. They were being marketed partially for their scrap value. So although it wasn't the best financial decision, we could have got some modern stills out of China, stainless steel, that would be ready to operate immediately. But these were just so beautiful that we had to. So I've been producing all of our rum initially through this old still, which is an Appalachian moonshine style still. That's barn oak from Kentucky, that's a few hundred years old, and it makes a really, really good product. Doesn't look like much, but makes an amazing product. Unfortunately, it started leaking a lot of vapor around the top. These wooden stills, you have to keep them wet or they leak. And where it was soaking with the stuff, it was fine, but around the top there, it was leaking a lot of vapor. You start with a ferment, which is molasses, sugar, water, and yeast. We allow that to ferment for around 4 to 7 days. We then take that fizzing wash or that beer and we put it into the still. Then you heat it up to just below the boiling temperature of water, because alcohol boils at a lower temperature. So that causes the alcohol to boil out, it then rises up through the column and over into the condenser. Comes out as around 75% alcohol, your rum that comes out. The first little bit that comes up the still is known as your heads. If you've heard of moonshiners going blind from drinking a bit too much of the heads, it contains your bad alcohols, your ethanols and methanol. It's not a waste product, it's a byproduct. That product I use for cleaning our bottling equipment, cleaning bottles. It was used during COVID to make hand sanitizer. In fact, it was enough to keep some businesses from going bankrupt. It's always been the bad boy of alcohol. It's associated with rum runners and pirates and drunken sailors, and the way that translates into modern times is a product of very, very few rules. The original way of doing it, however, comes from Haiti, Guyana, and Jamaica, where they use a system called a dunderpin. So a dunderpit is literally just a hole in the ground, earth lined. In some cases, they've at some of the older distilleries, they've been used for over 100 years. The same pit, and they just keep topping it up with molasses. They add a little bit of extra ferment. If you've got anything left over, you pour that in there. They throw a bit of fruit in there. Who knows what else may fall in the pit. The way they use that is then when they start their ferment, they'll get one little cup of that liquid. And you're talking 1,000-gallon kind of ferment, and they're getting one little scoop of that liquid, and they add it to their ferment. And those natural yeasts, which in some cases are completely unique to that hole in the ground, strains of yeast found nowhere else in the world. It will be unique to that hole in the ground on that island at that distillery. A distillery across the island would have its own unique strain of yeast. Unfortunately, we don't have access to a 100-year-old hole in the ground. I wish we did. So what I'm experimenting with while I can is using tropical fruit to add flavor.
We had a fun time sampling all the different types of rum. Today we're going to do some much overdue maintenance on our 2-speed winch. The first step is to take the retaining ring and the large washer off the top of the winch. Now you can slide the outer housing off the spindle. Make sure the bearings don't come off the spindle as you're taking the outer housing off. The other ring. Now the last bearing. Look at the difference. Ooh, man. Crusty, sticky, and dry. Yeah, very gummy. Okay. Already it feels a lot better. Gotta clean out that bore where the bearings right on here. Put a little bit of marine grade grease. You don't need much. Just a little bit in there. Yeah, this one's wrong. Sticks, and so that's how you. And you got to be careful; they're gonna go flying. Squeeze it into the pocket, then put it down. There you go. You don't have to go crazy with the grease. So that's in there. So first we can take these bearings off. We're not gonna do that right now. Let's do the spindle. So now we want to do these rings. These are for the top, separate rings. So we want this ring here. There it goes. Down there. Now we have to get it down the rest of the way into the groove. And that's where I was saying you gotta make sure you clean the spring so it doesn't end up being a little extra wider. Yep, it's in there. Yep, it's in the groove. This turns, remember we had to beat it out before, and now I couldn't turn it before. When I started pounding it out a little bit, I couldn't even turn it. So now it's a lot smoother. So now comes this little stack of gears. It goes in there like this. And you can't really put that in backwards. It just won't line up. So there's that. And the pen. I'm going to put a little grease on it because it is a surface that the bearing's right on. There. Again, you don't really need a crazy amount. There it goes. Should go down to the washer. Let's see if it all lined up. Anything's possible. Oh, no. Oh yeah, it did line up. Okay, it's coming. Yep, there it goes. It's got a little shoulder on it, so it'll stop eventually. There it is. So, that's all smooth. Look at that. All good. So now, we're going to put some grease on this spindle here. Now we're going to put a little bit of silicone around those holes. You don't need much. You can't be too far off because only one way to put these things together. I mean, the holes. There. Once you have two of the screws lined up and started, everything else will line up. Go a little slower. Okay. Good idea to start the screws by hand at first, so this way you don't cross thread. Now, this is a little tricky because when you slide it on there, you don't want to push those little pawls out. I'm going to put a little grease on the inside. Now, yeah, the tricky part. You know, when you put it on here, these little pawls here, they're going to land on here. You don't want them to get pushed out, so keep your fingers on there. You'll have a better feel for what's going on. Here they are. So I got to collapse them. And bingo. Let's see if it works before we start celebrating. That's one speed, and here's the other speed. Oh man, look at that. So much smoother. Be careful when you take that out. Okay, now we're going to put washer on, and the retaining clip. A bit more. Boom, clip. It's in there. Before, and they tested it out. Alright, and now, oh, much better. That's it. Now we'll be able to use this one very smoothly. And that's it. So if you got some winch that's not working too well, yeah, it's not that bad. Just be mindful not to drop anything in the water, and waterproof grease, basic tools, nothing crazy. A little gasoline, some clean rags, little Scotch-Brite pad seem to work good. My toothbrush, I'll probably rinse that off before I use it tomorrow morning. And that's it. We went out in our dinghies with our friends Andre and Elaine to explore the coastal waters. Andre and I did some research the day before, so we knew there were some good restaurants near Lucaya. We came upon the Stone Crab Restaurant. We were able to pull our dinghies up on the beach, right in front of the restaurant. What a great view, and the food was spectacular. Join us next time when we remove our depth sounder plug for cleaning without letting too much water into the boat. Leave Freeport at midnight and sail 12 hours to West Palm Beach. Check back into the United States using the Customs Border Patrol Roam app. And Ilona gets her new phone.